Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Ryan here, and I'm quite happy about all the comments I got on the last video talking about lower back pain. Link in the description in case you haven't seen it. But talking about it is kind of cool because I get a lot of interaction. It gets the gears turning in my head, and I can kind of share my ideas and maybe help you out. Let me start off by saying I'm no physical therapist, I'm no doctor, I just have a lot of experience. A real short bio of kind of my experience with lower back pain is that I pretty much overweight my whole life. I'm not a very high level athlete by any means. I was picked last in basketball if I got to play basketball in elementary school, if I never made any particular basketball team or football team or anything like that. And my point of saying all this is that when I decided to try to get in shape my senior year in high school, I hurt my back, and it hurt so bad I couldn't walk, shooting pains down my leg, and didn't understand. I got so motivated with fitness, but I had these back problems, and I'd go to the doctor, and I'm just a very curious person. This is obviously well before I understood the body better. They just lie down with a pillow between your legs and take these pills, and it was so stupid. So I did a lot of research online trying to learn about the back, and it still couldn't come up with a whole lot. It was very difficult because this was 2000. This was 2001, 2000. Not a whole lot of information out there, and internet was a different world. And then I get into personal training, I learn a lot more, and then I get an idea that the anterior pelvic tilt, tight hip flexors, tight lower back, and I learned about that, and it does relieve some of the problem, but it doesn't help me run fast. It doesn't help me sprint. It doesn't allow me to squat without hurting my back. I keep having these issues, and a big part of it is an environment I grew up with. I never grew up with any really strong athletic people. But understand that a lot of kind of what I talk about has to do with real world experience, working with people, helping people with their back pain, helping people get stronger, regular people, right? Not really powerlifters. I'm the powerlifter. I'm basically the main powerlifter that I help is myself. And you can learn from all my issues. In fact, if you want to get more in-depth stuff and you really want to figure this out for yourself and get more information, I recommend you watch a dozen Kelly Starrett videos. And I recommend Brent Brookbush is also another great guy. It can be a little dry, depends if you're into personal training. Stuff is actually really good, but it just kind of depends. If you're more of the wanting to watch Omar Isuf and Brandon Campbell, or you're more kind of like a little bit into science, more specific, not science, but very more specific lifting, like Johnny Candido or Brett Gibbs, or you like the science stuff, like Kelly Starrett and Brent Brookbush and stuff like that. I'm kind of an interpreter, if you can say, if that makes any sense, of how I take this information and apply it in my own lifting and how you can learn from it. And understand that for someone who's a very low-level athlete who's never really amounted to any real high-level athletic performance, I still wanted to push myself, and I still wanted to lift weights, and I still wanted to get strong, and I still wanted to stop hurting. There's got to be a way to fix myself. And Kelly Starrett was kind of the window that allowed me to fix myself, that got me into powerlifting. And understand a lot of how this all even became to be is this idea that you can fix yourself, and it's about understanding the body. And then, of course, I'm NASM certified, corrective exercise certification, performance enhancement certification, other certifications which don't really mean anything, but I have them. I've been training for 14 years, one-on-one with people. And okay, so that's a mouthful. Understand that's my interpretation. I have good understanding of anatomy, and I have a lot of observation experience, training people, seeing how people move, and taking all this and understanding my own injuries. Keep in mind that I have a lot of issues myself, and this is how it works. I used to have this hip pain in my iliopsoas, or I should say, I know it's my psoas. I'm pretty sure it's my psoas, but I'll tell you right now that the way it was before is that my back would hurt. That's all I know. My hip would hurt. I have trouble with my hip. My leg would, if I lifted my leg to 90 degrees, it would just fall. I would have these. It would be uncomfortable to sit, better to stand. It's hard to understand. I've had this pain or irritation for my whole life, or ever since I got into fitness, working out when I was 17 in high school, senior year, and I could never understand what happened and how to fix it. And so it made me essentially be mediocre with lifting weights, stay away from deadlifting and squatting up until like 2 or 3 years ago, until I learned how to fix myself. So I have this issue in my hip, right? Even there's another comment talking about their hip. What do you do about hip pain? And then what do you do about your psoas, what do you do with your psoas if your iliopsoas hurts? And I'm going to have another video right after this, and you can take a look at that where I go over more of the anatomy. But understand that everything has to do with the way the body moves and the spine. When the spine doesn't move correctly, everything else has to work around the spine. And if you're doing lots of reps, like 200 squats, just an example, you're going to have a lot of shortcomings if you are not moving effectively or efficiently. And if you just have a lot of weight on your body, 80-90% of your one repetition max, trying to go for multiple rep PRs or just a rep PR, you're going to have shortcomings and biomechanical errors. Or you're going to have a lot of biomechanical errors, which will lead to a lot of tissue trauma, or specifically joint tissue trauma, because of bad positioning, depending on where you're at in your life cycle of lifting. If you've been lifting for 2 or 3 years, relatively seriously, it's going to be a lot different than someone who's been lifting for 9 years or 8 years. This is kind of why I see some people move, and I wonder, how do they squat so well? I look at Johnny Candido, I look at Ben Rice, I look at Brett Gibbs. These guys are so strong. They've been doing it for such a long time. I've been squatting below parallel for about 2 years. So you kind of think that into consideration when you talk about this stuff. Okay, so moving on to what really makes sense, and that is the anatomy. Let's move on to that. Alright, so we're going to go right into the iliopsoas. I've peeled away the abs, the muscles of the abs, the muscles, the abdominal wall, some of the spinal erectors, and I want you to notice where the psoas, iliopsoas, and psoas minor are. They're right here. I have it highlighted, and I'm going to rotate it slowly here, and you kind of see where it attaches. The insertion points are right here. You look down here next to I think it's the lesser trochanter, I'm pretty sure. Sorry if I have that wrong, but you can kind of see how it kind of dips underneath. Understand that everything when I talk about stuff about anatomy, it's great to know the insertions and origins and stuff if that's how you learn, but the way I like to learn, teachers look at where it connects and look at how the cable, or the muscle, travels up over the pelvis lip here and up into the vertebrae. You can kind of see where they connect here. It looks like L4, L3, L2. You can see all that, right? And then we turn around on the back, and you kind of see the multifidi. Actually, I just discovered this while I was making this video earlier. I'm redoing it, actually. Here is the psoas. You can see the psoas, and let's just double check the multifidi's insertion points. And the multifidi's origin is cervical vertebrae C4, or sacrum, posterior iliac. Alright, I don't even know how to read that sometimes. Or I should say, I know how to read it, I just don't know how to interpret it in a video and make sense of it all. But you kind of see how it has similar spots to where this all connects. You see the vertebrae here. I turn around, you can kind of see where the psoas is. You see the vertebrae there. You see the multifidi there. This is what I pulled today. I pulled this muscle squatting, and it kind of hurts because, to make a long story short, I was being cocky. I didn't warm up. I didn't stretch, and I wasn't really planning to work out. And I hurt myself. So not a big deal, but it's an injury that I've had in the past, or it has been aggravated in the past. And when this gets hot, this multifidi or this psoas, I'm actually just making a really good educated guess where it is, but this is sort of where the pain is. It doesn't really hurt when I lift my leg, so it's definitely not hurting here in this bottom region where the adductor or these muscles are. I do know that let me peel away the glute. I do know that when I roll this piriformis out, it, for whatever reason, reduces the pain. So it could be nerve related. So my point of saying is, to see where this connects, right? So when these vertebrae here, right, see all these muscles that connect to the vertebrae, and you kind of go up the spine a little bit higher, you can see all these muscles that just basically cross these discs, or these bones, right? And they're able to move up and down and flex and do all kinds of stuff, to pick stuff off the ground, light, move fast, be flexible. Now let's go really fast, and let's lift 500 pounds, right? How much of this do we want to move? How much of the spine do we actually want to flex? We don't want it to flex at all, because what's going to happen is going to make all these muscles here on the outside freak out, because these tissues are not really designed to lift weights. They're only meant to stabilize and hold your torso in place, keep everything steady. It's not really meant to bicep curl anything, if that makes any sense. Because before, in my previous video, I talked about sort of getting a back tightness almost similar to a back pump or bicep pump. And what all these muscles here, most of this stuff is really meant to just kind of keep everything in place and not let it move. And that's what you do when you have a belt. Now, going over some of my comments, I'm going to go into my YouTube comments here and just kind of close out this video a little bit and then move on to the next body part. If I don't cover what you want me to cover, I do apologize. I will come back to this. This is something that I do love talking about, so don't get me wrong. But I want to be able to, make have everyone's requests heard. And also the same thing, part of it is, when I come back to it, I'm going to be more knowledgeable because I'll have more ideas of kind of what everyone's going through. But like someone asked, I messed up my psoas, and what did you do to recover from the psoas strain so quickly? I'm trying to squat every day through pain-free range of motion. This is actually a comment on another video. Just going to the gun show for now. Hope I can squat again. Okay, so this person here, right? How do you fix that? You can't. You can't really fix it. You just have to let it heal on its own. You do what you can so you don't re-aggravate it. It's almost like I guess a sunburn, right? Don't freaking rub up on the sunburn if it hurts. I mean, it's really that simple when it comes to practical application. And it might not be the detailed, like scientific, this is what you should do and this is what's happening. It's really more about, okay, that's great. What do I need to do? And what you need to do is, if you care about your strength, you will do stuff to stay strong, like doing the gun show and not aggravate your psoas. If you want to be risky, you can do some squats and deadlifts. And again, it's totally up to you. Based on his comment, I don't think he should. What else is there? It would be nice if you finish the subject before you go into the knees. If you don't mind, tips for us to implement possibly the deadlift in a safer way. Okay, so this is actually a really good question too, because the practical application really comes down to the same exact thing you already know, and that is you need to stabilize these vertebrae. You need to stabilize the entire torso. This whole region here, all this stuff, all these muscles that I'm highlighting, you can see, and then I'm going to flip around here, and all these vertebrae and all this stuff, your psoas, all this stuff needs to be stable. It needs to be so that it doesn't move. And if you let it move, you're not going to die. But if you have lots of loads, lots of reps, lots of sets, guess what? It's going to get hot, and it's going to get pissed off at you if you do it enough times where they move too much during heavy loads for a deadlift or a squat. This is, again, very individual. So just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So that's kind of what when I hear Mark Bell say that in some of his videos, this is kind of what I think about. I think about this. This is what goes through my head. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, and you're just measuring risk to get a certain type of response. And I guess that's pretty much all I really wanted to say. I guess one comment on this one here is pretty good too. It talks about anterior pelvic tilt versus posterior pelvic tilt. And that's important to know. Like, that's when the hip flexors are tight. I'm sure you've heard this before. When these quad muscles here, the iliacus, the psoas, the rectus femoris, all these adductors here get tight, and they cause the pelvis to tilt forward, causing your back to arch, or posterior tilt, which is basically the opposite direction. And that's important to know, and it's important to stay away from. But understand I learned about this years ago in my certification, and I had to take a cert again, and I learned it again. It's useful information when you're just trying to learn basically college information and in a weekend course. But the truth of the matter is that the body works as a unit. It works as an entire system. So trying to fix your anterior pelvic tilt isn't necessarily going to help. It's not going to really fix your squat if you're still squatting bad, because ultimately it's the entire motor pattern. If I work strengthening my arms, I'm going to be able to punch better. That makes you, if you punched anything in your life, or you've kicked the ball, just because you can bicep curl, you can bench press a lot of weight, doesn't necessarily mean you can throw a ball very fast. It's a skill. Squatting is a skill. Throwing a ball is a skill. Lifting a weight is a skill. And if whatever response you're looking for, in my case tends to be powerlifting, is what I talk about, you're looking for a movement or type of exercise that allows you to get the proper adaptation. And understand that the whole idea of adapting is just lifting weights, heavy weights, increasing the weights, doing more reps, pushing yourself, but staying injury-free by not letting joints do jobs that they shouldn't do for high loads and high reps. And in this case, this is what Kelly Starrett says a lot, is, off-label tissues. Is your lower back supposed to function like a deadlift mechanism for actually lifting the barbell? No, it's actually supposed to just keep your spine where it is while the butt and glutes do the work. They're not really meant to design to really grind up. They're meant to just keep you in place. Anyways, I hope this video has helped you understand sort of my viewpoint. If you have any more comments and questions and I still haven't answered your question, Just leave a comment below because it really does help decide kind of what content I'm making. It looks like a lot of you guys commented on this. I'm going to be talking a lot more about the shoulder and the knee also. And again, everything I do is based totally on practical application, not super scientific. Again, I'll leave some links in the description if you're interested in kind of getting more into nitty and gritty, some of the stuff I listen to and watch. Gray Cook is another good guy too. And then also Thomas Myers. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.